So we're going to go ahead and dive in to the meat and potatoes of the pod, which is talking about the hit Max show, Industry. And we're going to be diving into seasons 1, 2, and 3. And for those who don't know, Industry was created by former investment bankers Mickey Down and Conrad K. And essentially, the show provides an insider look into the world of high finance. It follows a group of young graduates who are competing for permanent positions at a top-rated bank in London, Pierpoint Co. It is a very prestigious investment bank, and the show follows their lives as they are struggling in a pressure cooker environment on the trading floor. And there are many different elements to the show depicting sex, drugs, and different power games that are at play. And the show depicts a world where work becomes your whole life, it becomes your identity, and personal crises are inextricably tied to the workplace. And I do want to say, my first initial reaction to the show, or how I got into the show, was that someone on TikTok recommended it. And they basically said that it's like Succession. And at the time, I think Succession had just ended. I don't remember if it was season 2 or season 3, but Succession just ended. I was looking for something else to watch. And I started watching Industry because I saw that, there's a black girl as the lead. And first episode is a bit slow, but as someone who likes to enjoy anime, I know that you have to give shows at least 3 episodes to first get into it. And by the end of episode 1, I was like, oh, this is actually a crazy way to end your first episode. So I am locked in. And the show just kept getting crazier from there. So from there, I have just been a day one Industry fan. What about you, Lydia? How did you get into the show?
So, like a lot of things in the last few years for me, it was actually to do with Interview with the Vampire. I remember after the second season came out last year, people were talking about Emmy contenders, and it was like a conversation between, who will get the most awards, Interview with the Vampire or Industry? And I was like, what is this Industry show that people keep on bringing up? And this was when season 3 was out, season 3 of Industry. So that's how I heard about it. I have never really been into finance. Like, I'm one of the few people, I've never watched Succession. Sort of. Maybe I will watch it one day. Like, Industry sort of piques my interest into shows about finance.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I lie. I watched the first episode of Succession and I never carried on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's how I got into Industry. And so the first time I watched it, I got about halfway through season 2, and I sort of lost my motivation. I just felt like it was a bit slow. But then I rewatched it again and watched it all the way through. And I realized I just needed to persevere, because the end of season 2, it does pick up quite a bit. So that really grabbed my attention again. Yeah. I'm not usually into finance shows, like shows about bankers or like this corporate life. It's not really been a thing that I've been into, but I have really enjoyed watching it.
I'm surprised you said that season 2 was slow, because I feel like season 2 is like it's such a good season, because a lot of times with shows they do have something of like a sophomore slump where things kind of slow down, but I don't think season 2 slowed down at all for me.
I think it was me. Like, this is like when we talk about season 2, we can talk about it more. But it was more Harper's and Jesse Bloom's working relationship was getting on my nerves, and every interaction they had, every time I'd watch it, I just was like, oh. So that sort of dipped my interest. But then it got exciting again. So.
Okay. No, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. So let's get into the first season of Industry. We're just going to do a brief overview. We don't have to go episode by episode. But basically, the first season starts with the young graduates. They are competing for a limited number of permanent positions at Pierpoint, and they are told that on reduction in force day, aka RIF day, that's 6 months after they start, they're going to be offered full-time jobs or they're going to be let go. And for those who don't know what RIF day is, it's essentially a set date when a company cuts off staff, and usually it's based off of performance or business needs. And they do that a lot when they're bringing in like a lot of new staff on board, especially like younger employees, because they want to see who's going to make it, like who's going to make the final cut and who's really going to help them, because they don't want to bring on too many people like all at once. So the show basically starts with us exploring and getting to know the characters a little bit. There's Harper Stern. She's a very smart young woman, but she lied about graduating from college, and she sent a forged transcript to HR. So she's on the cross products sales desk, which is the CPS desk, and that is a sales desk that sells a variety of financial products like stocks, bonds, and it comes across multiple types, so it's known as like cross product. And basically it's about offering clients whatever financial solution fits from different markets, like whatever they're looking for their business. That's what she'll sell them. And she's taken under the wing of Eric Tao, the fiery managing director. And she works under Daria Greenock, who is her line manager. So first impressions of Harper, I do have to say, like, when she's doing her interview and, the guy is kind of like talking about like, her transcript, how they need the transcript, and her face kind of falls. I'm like, oh girl, not here. Are you kidding?
Honestly, I was thinking, like, when that whole thing came out about her not having graduated, I'm like, of all the jobs to apply for, why would you apply for like an investment banking job at one of the most competitive places in the world and not even have completed your degree? This doesn't feel like the right place to lie.
Yeah.
It feels like you should lie at other jobs aren't as important. But as high stakes and as competitive as a role like this is, for you to lie about completing a degree, a whole bachelor's degree, feels it's a big lie. It's a very big lie to start out on when you've got no one behind you to support you yet. Ugh.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, especially because she's in a new place,
Yeah, a country.
Oh yeah, a brand new country, and we're just gonna go out on a whim and like take this huge risk for this job.
Yes.
Harper, you're crazy, girl. Oh my gosh. Yes. So then we have Yasmin Karahanani, who is an heiress, I believe. Yeah, and she is assigned to the foreign exchange sales, which is FX. Excuse me, because like I actually work in finance, so I know some of these things. But like FX is like it's just for buying and selling currencies. It helps clients, like companies and investors, exchange money between countries and just manage risk related to currency changes. So that's essentially all she does. And because she like speaks multiple languages, she's honestly perfect for the desk as well. And Yasmin very quickly deals with a lot of hazing from her line manager, Kenny Kilbane. And she has a very interesting, not a very interesting relationship, but like Kenny, I know throughout the show he changes, but I never liked Kenny. I never trusted him.
Even post change Kenny, still don't trust him.
No. And honestly, Yasmin, she did give me like Nepo baby vibes,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so. Like she is like the baby Kardashian of the Pierpoint desk.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
After Yasmin, we have Robert Spearing. He is an Oxford grad. He comes from a working class background. He is assigned to CPS with Harper. His manager is Clement Cohen, who struggles with a heroin addiction. And Robert is a very interesting character because he definitely like falls into the I guess like the typical white guy thing of like finance. Like he's trying to prove himself. He's trying to prove that he's cool. He's trying to prove he's with the guys and everything. And he starts doing a little too much, a little too fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we have Augustus, aka Gus Saki. He is an openly gay graduate from Eton and Oxford. And Gus seems to be someone who is very refined. He is very much raised on respectability politics. Like his family, very much about upward mobility. He is very much focused on that. But the first episode, ends off with a bang because one of their other graduates, Hari Dar, he is a state school graduate from a immigrant family, and he is assigned to the investment banking division, and he works obsessively and excessively overnight, and he is taking a lot of stimulants, and due to the fact that he was overworked and on a lot of stimulants, he suffers a fatal heart attack in the restrooms at Pierpoint, and he dies. And this death is a catalyst for a lot of change for a lot of the graduates and how things change at Pierpoint, but especially for Gus, because he was the most affected by Hari's death, and he is very clearly dissatisfied with how Pierpoint is handling Hari's death. Yeah. What was your reaction to the end of season 1 when that happened?
Um, I think it, it was a good way to set up the show. I would actually like to see more of Hari's character, but I understand it was a good way to set up the rest of the season, like for the end of episode 1 to be he dies, and it makes like the viewer understand, oh, this is like a cutthroat world, and like how quickly Pierpoint just sort of like brushed over it and tried to see these like sweet words of, oh, we're going to change, we're going to do better, we're going to care about more, we're going to care more about our employees, like mental health and all that sort of stuff, and they didn't change at all. But I think it was a good insight into how brutal that industry is. So I did like it. I did like Hari's character, so I would have liked to see more of Hari. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to say, I am sad that Hari died for the first episode. It was actually like shocking to see like what happened and how he died. And I do agree with you. It's very clear that Pierpoint, they kind of switch on the whole like PC thing of like, oh, well, you know, we care about how our workers are doing. So if you guys need to take a break, go to the floor, you know, the 4th floor, talk to somebody, you know, let us know it is okay. We're here for you. But it's very much a band-aid because they're just trying to play damage control to what's going on in their bank. And me personally, as someone who's worked in like a corporate environment, it feels it feels like that sometimes. Like something happens to somebody, or someone leaves, or someone's going through something emotionally or privately, and they have to kind of pretend to care so that the person feels at least a little bit comfortable. But like, if it gets a little too personal, they have to find some kind of excuse to let that person go, you know? So seeing what happened with Hari was like so shocking, but also seeing like how quickly he is forgotten and how Gus really is the only person who like kind of mourns and kind of feels bad for what happened to him, and really is the only person who really takes any kind of like action to make sure that Pierpoint remembers like how they kind of screwed him over, because this kid was just trying to like do well like everyone else did, and like he didn't want to take the stimulants, he didn't want to have to like abuse those things, but he wanted to succeed and he wanted to be noticed and he wanted to take that job because you know, he had that pressure to do so.
Yeah. And what I like about the show as a whole, is how it has the main characters, like the grads, they're all from different social backgrounds. So I like the fact like Hari, Robert, and Harper were from more working class backgrounds. And then Gus and Yasmin are very much like nepo babies, upper class, born into wealth, things like that. Because it's things like with Hari, the fact that he felt he had to work so hard, not just to fulfill the company culture, but I feel like in a way to sort of felt he had to prove himself to the people around him. Because in this country, finance is full of like privately educated, middle to upper class people. Like it's full. You're a minority for a working class. So yeah, it's just that I like sometimes it was a bit like superficial, but I do like some of the class conversations that came in throughout the whole show.
Yeah, I feel like finance in the US, not that it's not full of people who go to private school and who go to like get like degrees from a higher education institution, but because of the introduction of like crypto and things like that, it has made it a lot more accessible to people, especially here in the US, because the SEC is not regulating cryptocurrency and NFTs and how any of those things are used. So it's become a market where people have a lot more access to it, and people can like, you know, change the stock market however they want to with like you know, what happened with GameStop and what's happened time and time
Yeah.
again with different traders. And it's very interesting, and it's strange to see that in America, how like a world like finance has kind of has now has this open door for people to gain access to it through virality and through like a unprecedented flow of cash coming to them through this strange new currency in Bitcoin, in Ethereum, in Dogecoin, or whatever else people are pumping and dumping nowadays. You know,
Yeah.
it's
And I think
weird.
like with the rise of people being sort of independent day traders and things like that, like you don't need any sort of qualifications for that. You can just do a course online and become a day trader. Um, like that's massive in this country. So yeah, finance is definitely getting more accessible to all
Hmm.
people. Yeah.
Yes. So I do kind of want to like break it down character by character, because
Yeah.
a lot of the characters have very strong storylines, and even though like they do mesh together, it's interesting to see how, you know, the characters first start off and then see how like they change throughout the show. So
Hmm.
I personally do want to start with Robert, because I feel like in the beginning of the season he is not really like taken seriously, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like he's Yasmin's little like chew toy, and
Dating.
gosh, he's vicious.
Those scenes make me so uncomfortable in the sort of way that I'm just like, Robert, have some self-respect. Just stand up for yourself. The
Yes.
way she just like walks all over him, the way everyone walks all over him, and I think that's Robert's character. Um, yes,
Yeah, because
quite funny.
I think that's something that's very similar. And another character I've seen is in Succession. There's a character, what's his name? It's Shiv's husband, Tom. He marries into the family in Succession because Shiv, her dad, is like the owner of I forget the company in Succession, but it's supposed to be something like Fox News, so to speak,
Yeah,
because Succession is modeled after the Murdoch family that owns Fox News.
yeah,
And Tom marries Shiv because Shiv is a strong-willed woman. Her dad is rich, and he gets a job. I think he worked. I'm not sure if he worked at the company before they got married or if he got a job after they started dating. But essentially,
yeah,
he knows that marrying Shiv will get him a promotion, upward mobility, more face time with Logan, who is the CEO, and hopefully he'll be able to weasel his way into something bigger. And because Tom is surrounded by titans and people that are like hardcore and like don't take anything for anyone, he's fine being walked all over if that means he gains more access, and he is a wallflower and he's just there by association. So people will just assume that he's important. And that's the same thing with Robert. Like he gets very close to Clement Cohen, who is a mess, who sleeps at the desk and doesn't do his work because that man is rich and he doesn't really care. But
yeah.
Robert kind of becomes his protege, and he doesn't do any of the work. He doesn't even know what he's doing on the desk. I don't feel like he picks up the phone to make a call at all. He just becomes Clement's kind of like pseudo son in a way.
Yeah.
That way he
It's like
could get a job there.
he's like Clement's lucky. Like he just follows him
Yes.
around, does his little. It's even do his admin stuff because like I was thinking about the episode where Clement brings him and Gus out on a call, and like Robert had done no pre-reading or anything. So it's like, what are you there for? You're just
Mm-hmm.
there to like just boost his ego, just for him to be someone to speak to. Because Clement was lonely. He was just a lonely old man. So yeah, so Robert just he goes with the flow, but I think he goes with the flow a bit too much because he doesn't do any work.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
back then he just didn't do any work.
and Robert, he keeps riding the dragon, and everyone does it on the show, but he is like he's doing it every night.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
I think
quite a
when
go ahead.
in season 2 when he gets sober,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was a good time for his character. But yeah, season 1, he's crazy about it every night,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like has sort of no shame about coming into work the next morning like super hungover, still kind of high,
Mm-hmm.
just clothes like in the same clothes as yesterday, and he's just like, oh yeah, I had a great night. and everyone's just looking at him like, have some decorum. Like, you're not in uni anymore. You're not a student anymore. You've actually got responsibilities. You're actually you're dealing with millions of pounds at a time. Like, come on.
Yeah, you need
Yeah.
to act with a little bit more seriousness. But even though Robert comes
Yeah.
from a working class background, he went to Oxford. He's obviously trying to emulate the people that he went to school with. And he already knows the
Yeah.
kind of attitude that he can kind of walk around and the swagger he can pretend to have. And because
Yeah.
Clement likes him enough, he doesn't notice the fact that he didn't know anything at that dinner, but Gus was the only person talking and knowing anything because, like,
Yeah.
Gus isn't his lackey, Robert is. And he's fine with
Yeah.
Robert, not being able to get by because he probably knows like so many other men who are like Robert who are now millionaires, multimillionaires. And so he's willing to take him under his wing and like, give the guy a break, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
So I do want to talk about Gus, but like I do want to touch on Harper and Yasmin, two of the most interesting characters on the show, truly. And I do want to say, first and foremost, I think that Yasmin and Harper. Okay, one thing I've always seen on the internet is that some people say they couldn't watch Industry because they can't root for any of the characters, so they feel like both the characters are bad. And I
Mm,
just want to say this: we need to stop acting like we're 5 years old. Okay,
honestly,
you need
get
to
over it.
you need to get over the fact that we TV shows are made about bad people because guess what? Those bad people exist. You work with them, and most likely than not, you're a bad person too. You don't like the fact that
Yeah.
Harper is overly ambitious. So what? She's going after
Yeah.
her bag. You guys don't like it that Yasmin is self-absorbed. Yes, she's self-absorbed. She grew up rich. Of course she's
Yeah.
self-absorbed. What else would she be? She's not gonna be
Yeah.
sweet and nice and kind. She doesn't know what kindness is. The only kind of kindness that was given to her was from her nannies and her butlers. Of course she's not a nice person. She's evil. I feel like
And I sort of love about the show how it's just like different bad people pointing at each other saying, "Oh, you're worse," and it's just that's
yes.
the conflict in the show, which is fun, which is like it's drama. It's just good to watch because one character especially between Harper and Yasmin, they'll be pointing out each other's flaws, and it's like, but neither of you are good people, but that's what makes it so
Hmm.
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like season one, I really did feel for Harper because she's truly trying her best to, make a name for herself. And like, she wants to stand out. She wants to be seen as like the top dog. And she really found her match in Eric Tao because
Yes.
Eric likes to act like in later seasons, he likes to act like Harper is so crazy and she's so wild and she's so out of her gourd. Like, sir, you had one client that you almost lost because you talked
Yeah.
badly about his wife at a dinner, and then you got upset that he was upset that you were rude to his wife. And they were like, oh, come on, it's just bros. It's just locker room talk. It's like, no, sir. It's called having some respect. Okay?
Yeah.
Don't drink so much. Like, that's literally it.
And it just feels so weird because Eric trained and like mentored Harper to be even more cutthroat than she was when she first entered the job. And then he's like, "Oh, but why are you so cutthroat? Why are you so like
Hmm.
brutal? Why are you so driven?" And it's like, but this is what you want her to be. Like every piece of advice Eric's given Harper, especially in season one, was just like, "Yeah, go for it. You have to make your mark. You have to take the client. Like the client does what you want. Like all of that." And then when she does that, he's like, "Oh, you took it a bit too far. What do you want?" It's sort of
Yeah.
it.
I'm interested in Daria's character because she isn't anything like Eric. She has her own
Yeah.
clients, she has her own books, she knows what to do, and
Yeah.
Eric keeps pushing Harper to like step on her toes and try to like
Yeah.
take her client. And I have to
Yeah.
imagine how it feels to be a line manager and your managing director tells a new graduate, someone fresh, straight out of college, not even college, like straight out the womb
Graduating college.
into the cradle of life, and your managing director is telling them to poach your clients that you
Yeah.
built relationships with, clients that you know very well. And then guess what this person does? Loses millions and millions of dollars. Does something completely ridiculous. And you're just sitting there
Yeah.
like, how can you allow this to happen? How can you do this to me? I've been here longer than she has. She just got
Yeah.
here.
And I feel like my thing with Daria is I do like her character,
Mm.
And I like what happened to her at the end of season one. It actually kind of breaks my heart. Like when you see her getting in the car at the end, I was just like, oh, like when Harper did that, I was like, yeah, that's quite harsh. But the whole thing with letting Eric influence Harper so much, I was like, she's been more assertive and like staked her claim a bit more on Harper. Like, she did in some respects, like when she got her to meet with Nicole and stuff. But I feel like she should have really like staked her claim on Harper and say, no, she's mine. Like she works under me. I know Eric's like the managing director of the desk. She works
Mm.
under me. She's my responsibility. And I feel like if she just did that a bit more, but there could have been a happy medium of where Harper was pushed to like exceed, but then was tempered a bit by Daria's level-headedness.
Hmm.
But that wouldn't make for drama. So
I also think that Harper wouldn't. I don't know if she wouldn't have gone along with Daria, but Harper has a hunger inside of her that is similar to Eric's. So it's clear
yeah,
that she was more drawn to how Eric did business and how he acted versus how Daria was, because Daria very clearly is a very professional and knows what to do at her job, but she seems like the kind of person that like clocks in, clocks out, and doesn't really like get to know the coworkers, and that's because most of her coworkers are garbage anyways. But
yes,
Harper very much wants to be one of the boys, you know.
yes,
So that's, I feel like she was a lot more, she gravitated more towards Eric's mentality at work, you know.
yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
They're very similar. Very, very
Yes.
similar.
Yeah. And then we have Yasmin and Kenny. And I don't like Kenny. Like, how dare you
Um,
bring a graduate to a strip club and then pay for a
um, oh,
stripper to dance on her? What's wrong with you? Are you sick?
he's yeah, he's so oh, just everything about him, like from the way he treated her in the office to yeah, when he brought her out to that strip club, like everything, every one of their interactions in season one,
Hmm.
it's just so uncomfortable. And he's a bully, and he's like chauvinistic, and like he's insecure in himself. He
Yeah.
must be to be doing all of that. Uh,
It's also wild to me because um, I remember it was the dinner that the Pierpoint was having with like all their workers, and Kenny was like picking on Yasmin, yelling at her, and then
yeah,
Harper was like, "Hey, don't talk to her like that. Don't talk to her that way."
yeah,
And Eric was like, "Kenny, go home." Like it's very clear
yeah.
that the culture at Pierpoint is something where like like no one has any respect for each other. People are hating each other, and everybody knows. Like they know who the
Everyone
suspects
knows.
are. They know how far they push it, and like you're not gonna let these people go because they make money for the desk.
Yeah. And what I always think about that scene is that if Harper hadn't stood up for Yasmin, would Eric have been involved? Because he was looking over, but he was looking over from the beginning, from when Kenny was initially going at Yasmin. And it
Hmm.
wasn't until Harper stood up that, and I think he was like, Eric was like, oh no, now my girl's involved.
Hmm.
Now I have to get involved. If he
Yeah.
would have just let Kenny just verbally assault Yasmin like that. And it's yeah, like that's the culture of the company. I guess they think your line manager, your managing director can do whatever they want with you.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I do want to go into Gus as well because watching Gus throughout the season and him like not even backing down, like him throwing away the respectability and all pretense and going like confronting his boss about
Yeah,
his position at work and how his boss is like trying to force him to talk to like the company shrink or whatever, and how she was straight up just like,
yeah,
I do not like being threatened. So you're not going to
yes,
talk to me like that again. It's crazy because like Gus and Harper are very different from the kind of, I feel like for me personally, because I've worked in finance, they're very different from the black people that I've run into because like we know like you clock into work, you clock out, you don't get in your boss's face, you don't try and impress people, don't try and do too much because if you mess up, you're done, you're losing your job. Like be sure to mind your manners. And both of them have like this confidence and also this like, I don't know, this strange desire to like put their foot down and assert their authority over people who have actual authority over their jobs. And it's actually crazy for me to watch it, but I find Gus to be a very refreshing character and very interesting. And also, like, seeing how bold he is, I don't know how to describe it. It's amazing.
Yeah. I really like them making the sort of Etonian Oxford upper class boy black, because you don't really see that in any sort of British media, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it means that when he has interactions like that, where he sort of confronts his boss and his manager, it's expected, because if he grew up super upper class, super privileged, he's not used to people speaking down to him and like him not getting a full answer from someone. So yeah, he would confront them like that, but it's not really what people perceive people to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I sort of liked that. I feel like the show very easily could have made Gus's character a white man, but then he'd be the stereotypical. He'd be like the opposite of Robert, like the stereotypical upper class Etonian Oxford boy, super snobby, super posh, just like completely socially unaware. But yeah, making him black added like a something different.
Yes, absolutely. And I absolutely love seeing the way Harper talks about Gus. Like, oh, he thinks he's so full of himself. It's like, girl,
Yeah,
you are not the one to talk. You,
literally.
I know
Yeah.
what you've been doing on your desk. Okay, so maybe pipe down a little bit. But we get towards the end of season 1, and basically the graduates have to give a speech talking about why they should be picked for, their positions at Pierpoint. And oh my god, Rob's speech is so bad. Like, he's not even there, really.
Not there. Just like no thoughts, just brain empty. One of those situations. But it makes sense because he hasn't really put in work all of those previous weeks, months, however long it's been. I think what is the grad scheme, a year or however long it is. He hasn't put in the work, so I think yeah, of course, there's nothing that he says is really going to be important. It's going to be good. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about Robert, like, I at some point I can't even feel bad for him, especially in the first season, because he's just not, like you said, he's not putting in the work, he's not caring, he's not doing anything different or unique. Like, he's not putting in a lot of effort. You know what I mean?
No,
Yeah,
no. You can't feel sorry for him because it's like he's not helping himself.
yeah,
He's not getting himself out of the position. So
yeah. And I do think that Gus's speech is the best. Uh,
Sausage is definitely the best. It's surprising that they made Harper's so bad. Like it makes sense because she's always been presented as like this really like she's so high achieving that
mhm.
she's super anxious. So it makes sense that she would have like pretty much had a panic attack during her speech. But I thought she would have done better.
Yeah, I feel like it's been it because during the rewatch, it may have been a while since I've watched the end of season 1. Um,
Yeah.
so Gus's speech, I remember it so vividly because I don't know if you do this, but sometimes when people say things in movies or TV shows, I like turn into like a vocal stem. So Gus's speech has turned into a little vocal stems for me. It's like, allow me this indulgence. Buy the dip, short the fix, fuck Bitcoin. I was like,
Yeah.
this guy is crazy, but I understand why, because he has been pushed and pulled around by Pierpoint, and he's like, I'm done. I don't want this job. It's not that good. Like, you people do not treat me with the respect I deserve. Like, I'm not going to let myself be like treated less than just so I can have this job that looks good on a resume, because this is not worth my time.
Yeah.
And I respect that.
Honestly. It's
Yes.
because his character so much. It's sort of he knows when to just step back and just like not let people step all over him. And I feel like
Hmm.
more characters need that ability to say, you know what, you're not worth it.
Yeah, I feel that too. Um, okay, so we're coming to the end, and there was something that we kind of brushed over that we do need to talk about. So Harper, like you mentioned before, she is introduced to one of the clients that works with Purepoint through Daria, and this client is Nicole Craig, and Harper impresses Nicole early on, but Nicole kind of tries to make a move on Harper, and she basically
Hmm.
rejects her. And there is she she I think like what happens is that like she tries to reject her, and then she like says like, "Oh, I'm gonna tell people that you did this to me," and then like Nicole's like, "Who are you gonna tell? Like, who's going to care really?" And
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's around the same time, but she also files a complaint against Eric, which I totally understand why she would. And
Yeah.
Eric, scared to lose his job, is like asking her not to push the complaint to withdraw it. And Daria and another one of the managers at the firm basically are telling her, like, we're going to protect you. You're going to be okay. You're going to be safe. If you want to go ahead and go forward with the complaint, just let us know. It was Sarah. She's the president of Pierpoint London. And
Yeah.
she says that they'll create a new culture. But Harper, seeing how like Daria expects her to like kind of know her place, while Eric was the person who encouraged her to basically like be herself and like be a little bit unhinged. She recants her complaint. So then Harper is hired and Eric is reinstated back into his position and Daria is let go. And so is Sarah,
Yeah.
which I actually found kind of crazy because like how is a managing director being put back into his position gonna lead to the president of the bank being let go?
Yeah. I didn't get why Sarah got let go, but yeah.
But I think it's because Bill Adler, who is like the head of something at Pierpoint, I don't know. He's not the CEO, but he's somebody there. He and
Yeah.
Eric are friends. So if he is like, oh
Yeah.
well, Harper's Eric's new toy, and Eric wants her around, so I'll get rid of the two other women that try to
Mhm.
convince her to slander my best friend's name.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of the ending? Also, like, what did you think of Yasmin's response to what happened?
I thought like seeing Daria be let go and like the eye contact that she makes with Harper in the last episode, I think that really hammers home Harper's ability to just like cut up ties with people. She doesn't really I don't want to say she doesn't have a conscience, but it doesn't seem to phase her that much
Mm-hmm.
for people to be discarded in her like efforts to succeed. Like, she just really didn't care that basically Daria is a stepping stone for her success. Knowingly putting herself back in the situation where she can be verbally abused by Eric again, it just felt sort of I understand why she did it, but I don't like that she did it. But it's that whole thing that we were speaking about before. Like they're not good people. They're quite bad people. So it makes sense that she did it. Um, yeah, and yeah, I think her and Yasmin's relationship is just so. I don't call it codependent, but it feels like I think the fact that they lived together, so they got super close, and then all of this happens. I just, I, I, I think Yasmin depends on Harper too much. Like
Mm-hmm.
she just depends on people for love. And yeah, I just think.
Yeah, I think with Daria being let go, um, it's a harrowing reminder of how cutthroat the industry is once again because Daria has put in all this time, made so much money for Pierpoint, and Sarah literally is the president of the company, so she would think her position is safe. But
Yeah,
what they forget is that it is a business of relationships. It is about who you know, not how much work you put in. And
yeah,
Daria, someone who talks about how like with clients, oh, you need to get to know them, be conversational, like soften them up a bit. Like that's her approach. And Harper, rather than do Daria's approach, oftentimes goes for the jugular because she wants to get straight to the point and she wants people to like the fact that she is like cutthroat and she doesn't sugarcoat anything. And Daria and Sarah offering to take Harper in and get rid of Eric, I feel like it's such a good
yeah,
solution, but
yeah,
this is the mindset that Harper has where she wants to make money. She wants to be like part of the brass, like she wants to be in the inner circle. And she can already kind of see like how people like Eric, how people like Rishi really view Daria and really view Sarah, and she wants to be akin to them. Like, she
Hmm.
wants to be like them. She wants to be brutal. She wants, people to feel pain whenever she speaks to them. She wants people to look at her and like be scared. She wants to be
Yeah.
revered in a way. She doesn't want to be understood. She doesn't want respect. Like, she wants people
No.
to fear her in the same way that people fear Eric. She wants that kind of like cutthroat nature because that is what she idolizes so much about like the world of finance. So you're right. When Daria looks at her, I think Daria realizes that like she maybe it was wrong to try and take Harper under her wing because she thought she was just like this
I
naive
think so.
girl who was like sweet and like wanted some help, and then like she sees
Yeah.
that she's nothing like that. Like, Harper is not that
Yeah.
girl.
I feel like that final look is just like Daria understanding that Harper's Eric. Harper is just the new generation of Erics and people like Eric and that ilk of like finances. Um, yeah, just her coming to terms with that and like understanding that there was nothing she could have done because I feel like Harper would have always done this, whether it
Hmm.
was to Daria or to someone else. He would have always done this because this is what the industry requires.
Yeah, that's very true. And she knows that getting good with Eric means she's getting good with Bill Adler. And that's the kind of
Yeah,
access that not many grads have. And she wants to use that to her advantage. Like, she was able to convince that guy who is basically like one of the moderators for what the CPS desk does. She was able to convince him to let her do something that was against company rules and also illegal, and also lost the
yeah,
desk a lot of money. She lost over a
a
hundred
lot,
million dollars, and she was
a
able to
lot.
charm that guy into giving her leeway. Like, that's the person that she is.
Yeah, yes.
She wants to run the big game. She wants to run the risk, and I do agree with you when we talk about Yasmin and Harper because their relationship obviously tenuous, obviously changes a lot. Um,
Mhm.
I do think that Yasmin does rely too much on other people, and
Mm.
she it's because most of her life things have been taken care of for her. So she just relies on the things that are accessible to her rather than trying to
Yeah,
make it out on her own because she's scared of things that are not guaranteed and she doesn't want to take that risk. And she sees how Harper moves and how our Harper works and she wants to be like Harper. And she respects that about her. She respects her drive, but Harper is not a nice person. Yasmin is not a nice person. And I think it's really the respect that they have for each other that keeps them in connection to one another, especially in season one. But after she sees what Harper does to Daria, in my head, I'm like, Yasmin, I know that you are upset and you're angry, but like, don't act like you won't do the same thing, girl.
exactly, exactly.
Hmm.
I think part of Papa and Yasmin are quite similar in a lot of ways in that they use the people around them. Um, it's Yasmin for more um reasons more along the lines of she just wants to be loved because she's probably just felt unloved because of her parents, because of her like childhood and stuff. And Harper to some degree as well. Um, they both just use the people around them to succeed in whatever way. So Harper wants to succeed in terms of making loads of money and being like high up in the bank. And I feel like Yasmin just wants to succeed socially. She just wants to be loved.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's the crux of the problem because she's seeking from Harper. And I don't think Harper's in the headspace. She doesn't want to be in the headspace where she's giving people love. She's in the headspace of I want to succeed. Like I want to make money. I want to be a true capitalist. So they're wanting things from each other that neither of them can give to the other. And it just creates so much drama.
Yeah. I do think that like there are aspects of the show that are unrealistic, like the drug taking, obviously like
Yeah.
some of the mistakes people make that would get them fired like immediately,
Hmm.
especially because they're graduates. Like, why are you keeping them there? Like, let them go. You don't have to
Actually,
wait for Rift Day. You can you can send the
no.
packing that day. And
Yeah.
there's also jargon in the show because I feel like with Succession, because it's based in television, people can somewhat understand what's going on. Like, if they're talking about an acquisition or a merger, people can somehow get that. But, like, finance is so removed from, like, people's everyday lives. It's like, what is CPS? What's an FX desk? Like, what's an IP? Like, what is all this stuff? You know?
Yeah.
Like people don't
Like
even understand like
I'm
stocks and bonds, you know?
no, I'm someone who is so far removed from finance life. Like I work in healthcare, so finance stuff is just completely out of my. So a lot of the times I find throughout watching the whole show is that I would sort of zone out when they're just talking a lot of financial jargon. I I try and listen because there
Yeah.
must be plot points somewhere in it, but I don't understand it. I just move on because yeah.
Yeah, I feel like as we move into season 2, because the pandemic becomes such a center point in the show
Mhm.
and it's centered more around healthcare in season 2, I think some of the things become a lot more understandable. At least for me, I feel like I'm not sure if that translated for most of the people who
They
watched
like
it.
they mention the NHS, which I'm very familiar with,
Yeah.
and they mention like political stuff. And I like that the show does bring in real world things. Like they bring in the pandemic and they bring in like what's going on in British politics at the time. Um, so like I do appreciate that, but it's like the actual because they're still talking about finance. So when they're talking about medical tech and like the investments in med tech, I don't sort of
Yes.
just look out.